Good morning everyone, what's going on? I am Adam Green from Green Auto Services, and in today's video we have a Ford Fiesta 1 litre EcoBoost. Now this video is specifically looking at how to replace the front disc and pads, which is going to be a really common occurrence on most vehicles. They are your general wear and tear maintenance items that you do need to keep an eye on. So on that note, let's not waste any time, let's dive straight into it. Okay, so I've got the vehicle up into the air and I've already removed the road wheels. Now from here onwards, all I've done is I've just turned the steering out so we can now see the front of the brakes. So we have your brake caliper here, which we're going to take off. You then have your brake pad carrier, and then you've got the actual disc itself. The first thing we need to do is to take the caliper off. So for this particular one, you're going to need a 19mm open-ended spanner just to hold onto the slider nut, and then you also need a 12mm ratchet spanner to take off the bolt that's retaining it. And actually these are quite loose, so sometimes once you've taken them off, you can literally just unscrew it, take it out. Now a lot of people will just flip the caliper straight up. For good practice, I like to take both of them out so I can take it off nice and easy. There we go, just crack that off. And all you're literally going to do is just wiggle the caliper straight off, and we can just leave that gently hanging to one side. It will try and get in your way again, but as long as it's to one side, it's absolutely fine. This is actually a very good opportunity to see the brake pad wear. So with all your brakes, you will have an inboard and an outboard brake pad. As you can see, this is the inboard brake pad, which actually is almost nearly seized in there, and the outboard pad, which is okay. But as you can see, this is the backing plate, and the friction material has nearly run out and started to hit metal onto metal. So we just need to get these pads out. Okay, so once we've got the pads out now, you can see them a lot more clearly. Now if I hold both pads next to each other, you can see we have the very thin bit of the friction material there, and then that is the backing plate that the friction material is effectively bonded to. And as you can see, that is approximately about 95% worn. And if you have a close look at the disc, there is actually a bit of a lip there. So actually when it's sat in there, it does actually look like it's completely worn out. But the customer has obviously got the lifespan of these pads pretty much. So that's the reason why we're replacing them. And because the disc itself has quite a substantial lip on it, we're going to be replacing the disc as well. Whilst we're here, you do need to check these sliders. Now these sliders are designed to allow the caliper to move in and out as the piston pushes the pads on the disc and activates the braking. And as the pads wear, it will allow the caliper to move accordingly over time. But these are nice and free, they spin absolutely fine, they go in and out without any resistance at all. And then whilst you're here, you just want to check the rubber boots that protect them to make sure there's no splits or anything, and that they will still continue to prevent the ingress of dirt and moisture. Otherwise, if they're damaged, moisture is going to get in there, dirt is going to seize up over time, everything will just lock on, and then you will have premature wear on your brakes. So from here onwards, we cannot remove the disc to replace it without removing the brake pad carrier. All you need is a 15mm socket to go on the back two bolts that hold it in, and in this case, a big old 1/2 inch ratchet. And that one was actually a little bit easier than expected. You should actually then be able to take it out by hand. Okay, and there we have it. That is your brake pad carrier that we are also going to clean up as best we can, ready for the new pads. So when it comes to it, you need to ask yourself, why do we need to replace the disc? Every vehicle manufacturer will come with specifications of minimum disc thickness for replacement. Now, I know for a fact on this particular vehicle, if it's anything below 22 millimeters thick for a vented brake disc, it's highly recommended that they are replaced. So I actually have with me what's called a micrometer, and this effectively measures the thickness of the disc. So you just want to put it either side of the disc faces, wind the anchor in, there we go, that's done. This is really difficult to see. I'm going to take it off and put it back to where it was so you can see it clearly. So it's quite difficult to explain how to read these gauges, but effectively this is reading 21.267 mil. So that is just below 22 mil. So on that note, it's met the conditions where they do need to be replaced according to the manufacturer specification. So that is definitely a good enough reason and a safety reason to get this brake disc replaced with the pads. So next we need to remove the disc. Sometimes it's really easy, sometimes it's quite difficult, but persistence will get you there and get the disc off. Now, fortunately, this disc is already loose. Now, the design on this one is that effectively the wheel will hold everything together. There is no retaining screws, which are normally located on the face. So if I just bring you around and then get you zoomed in as well. Normally on these discs, you'll have like a screw here and one on the opposite side, or perhaps you've just got one which will be holding the disc onto the hub. Not in this case though. In this case, the actual brake disc is already loose. If it's not loose, then you just need to manipulate it off. In this case, this comes straight off. Someone previously has greased it, cleaned it up and greased it, and it's actually come straight off. However, there is a lot of times the disc will be seized on there and that won't be coming off at all. I will tell you a little trick for doing it. That is what you need. A great big hammer. And all you're literally doing is, without hitting any of the studs, you want to give it a sharp tap or a blow just to kind of break it free and loosen it off. Some will be 1 or 2 hits and it'll come straight off. Some will be quite a fair bit more, but if you're persistent at it, it will eventually come off. Okay. We've got a little bit of bad news. Now, unfortunately, just after taking the disc off, I've actually cracked open the new set of brake discs, and actually they're completely wrong. I'm going to show that to you in just a couple of seconds. Now, the good thing is we've only stripped down one side of the vehicle. I've already spoken to my supplier. They're going to be sending me out the correct disc and pads as soon as possible. So we're still going to crack on, get everything cleaned down in preparation for that. But that is a good lesson to learn. It's always a good idea to check the new parts against the old parts as soon as you physically can. Just saves you getting too deep into a job, disabling the car inevitably until you get the correct parts. So the good news is, you know, these aren't the worst brakes to strip down, so we haven't got very far at all. But the fact that I've got new ones on the way, we're still going to get this job done today and back to the customer. So let me take you down to the brakes and I'll show you exactly what's going on. Okay, so first of all, these are the new brake discs from my supplier. I'm actually going to keep them in the cellophane bag purely because we're going to be returning them, so we don't want to get them dirty or anything like that, because although this is for a Ford Fiesta, just not for this particular model. Anyway, very, very easy. Just to compare them, take your old disc and quite literally just marry them up to each other, and straight away you can see they are two completely different diameter and sizes. But because the disc is wrong, you can guarantee that the pads are probably going to be wrong as well. So let me grab the pads. Here we have the old pads, and these are the new pads that have been sent over. So if I hold them up, I mean, straight away you can see a difference. They are completely the wrong size, the wrong shape, the wrong thickness, the wrong diameter. Everything about it is completely wrong because these pads are designed specifically for the discs that are obviously too big. So too big a disc, too big a pads will not fit in this Fiesta at all. Okay, so unfortunately we have the wrong parts. From here onwards, we can still carry on and get everything cleaned down for when the new parts arrive. So let's get back straight into it, and I'll show you specifically the areas you need to clean and treat for the new brakes. So here we are back at the hub. From here onwards, we really want to clean up all these faces ready for the new disc. We want the disc to sit on nice and flush with the hub so it doesn't cause any premature wear or damage at all. The first thing I normally do, just get a really old rag. There might be some old residue of copper slip or grease or treatment just to stop it from sticking on, seizing on, or anything like that. Once you've got all the majority off, you then want to clean off any surface corrosion. Okay, now I do have a pretty cool little tool with me. Now, we want to be able to get to either sides and all these nooks and crannies of the actual wheel nut studs themselves. Now, I actually have with me a little stud cleanup. Now, what this is designed to do, this will effectively fix to whatever you're putting on there. In this case, I'm using a snap-on battery gun, which is an amazing little bit of kit. With an adapter, pop it on the end, and that rotates. But what's good about this design is that it is hollowed out in the middle. So effectively it's designed to go over the studs and clean the base where it's very difficult to get to normally. And that makes my job nice and easy. It's just taking off all the initial surface corrosion and make sure there's no pitted or scoring to make sure that the new disc goes on there nice and flush. I won't be stopping there though. This is my next bit of kit. Again, this is from Snap-on. This is the 14.4 volt battery drill with a wire brush on the end. Now this one's fairly clean, but as you can see, I managed to just get right into the back of the hub there to get off any kind of dirt or corrosion. The more you clean it, the better, and just make sure there's no rough surfaces. But you're probably saying, Adam, what about these big open bits in here? Well, one has a bigger wire brush. Okay, and there we have it, and that is absolutely fine. As long as you're confident enough that there's no substantial corrosion on here, the face is nice and clean, and it's all dirt-free. That's all you need to do in regards to cleaning it. There's one more step to do, which is the same principle for every single time you do brakes. We need to treat the contact surfaces for when the new disc goes on. So in this case, you just get some copper slip and you're just lightly coating around the inside of the hub where the main point of contact for the disc will be. Now this is also really beneficial to pay close attention to cleaning this area up, because this is effectively where the wheel will be sitting as well, and making sure that the inside of the wheel is clean. That will go on and off very, very easily. You'll probably notice or come across a situation before, you may have had a flat or any reason to take the wheel off. You take the wheel nuts off and the wheel doesn't come off, it's still on there solid. That's because from factory, there's never any treatment between the mating surfaces. It's open to the elements, it will just corrode, seize on, and it'll be very difficult sometimes to get off. In this case, we've given it a nice clean up, we've treated it, and that new wheel will fly on as soon as we come to putting it on and torquing up the nuts. Okay, so here we have the pad carrier. Now, we want to pay very, very close attention when we're cleaning this up to effectively where the pad is go into, and that's on both sides as well, and we want to make sure that we give them a good clean up. First things first, before you start cleaning this up, check the box of the new pads. Sometimes they may actually come with new metal shims, so we can take these out and replace them with new ones. Some of them do, some of them don't. But because my new ones aren't even here yet, from experience, they do not come with new shims, but I've been proven wrong before, but we'll soon see. With this particular one, I'm going to actually leave the metal shims in, and I'm going to give these a thoroughly good clean up with a wire brush. Okay, there we go. It's as easy as that. As you can see, it's all looking nice and shiny. I'm pretty confident that that is going to be absolutely fine in regards to cleaning it up, purely because I can't see the shims being pushed out by corrosion. I can't see any pitting or scoring. It all looks nice and smooth. The only thing to watch out for with these particular ones, you can probably see there are some slightly sprung loaded springs there, which is completely normal. Just be careful when you're working around them not to break them, because they are purely designed to keep the pad snug in the carrier so it doesn't bounce or knock around or make any squealing noise. So once that's all cleaned up, we can then get it ready to go back on the vehicle when the new parts arrive. Okay, so now that we've got the brake pad carrier all cleaned up, we now need to go down to the brake caliper and push the piston back. Now the piston is going to be out wearing down the old pads, so we now need to push the piston back into the caliper to make enough room for the new pads. So now we're going to go under the bonnet and prep the brake fluid reservoir for when we push back the caliper. Okay, so here we are underneath the hood. Now you want to go to your brake fluid reservoir, which on these vehicles is just at the back here. Sometimes it will have a yellow, but most of the times it will have a black cap on it, which will have .4, which is the common brake fluid to use. Now you just want to go ahead and just twist and lift off the cap. Now the brake fluid level is actually quite low on this, well, low enough to be able to push back the piston. So when the piston gets pushed back, the fluid level in the reservoir is going to rise. It's pushing the fluid all the way backwards through the system and up here. And the last thing you want to do is for the actual brake fluid to spill out and go over everywhere. So to avoid any mess or catastrophe, we are going to siphon out a little bit of fluid so it doesn't spill everywhere when pushing the pistons back. Now, if you watched my previous video on the Seat Leon with the rear brake pad replacement, this is going to be familiar to you. All we want to do is just siphon out a little bit. In this case, I've got a kind of makeshift shock, which in reverse is a great little siphon. And you don't need to go down too low. Make sure you don't drip anything. And that's it. So the first thing before we do anything, more importantly, just check over the general condition of the caliper. Now, more importantly, have a good look at the rubber boot which protects the piston pot itself. You want to make sure that this is in place, it's not split open or deteriorating, because this plays a vital role in keeping moisture out, which effectively stops the piston from seizing. If that happens, the brakes are going to stick or bind on, and it's going to prematurely wear your brakes. In this case, everything is looking absolutely fine. There's no tears, cuts or deterioration. So we are just hopefully going to very easily push the piston back. In this case, I've just got myself a great big pair of grips, and I'm going to very gently, with not any excessive force, just very slowly push that back. Now it is going back very slowly. You don't want to force it, you just want to ease it in. You can probably just see that it's going in, and then it will get to a point where, there we go. Okay, that has now stopped. You'll feel the resistance all of a sudden increase, and then you won't be able to push that back anymore. Okay, and then just gently let that hang in. And again, make sure there's been no damage at all from the inside of the boot, and you'll be absolutely golden. So that is absolutely fine. Everything on this side is now prepped for the new brakes to go on. What I'm going to do here is get the other side stripped down, cleaned up in preparation for the new parts. Okay, welcome back guys. Good news, the new parts have arrived. Now I've already just off camera compared the new discs and the pads to the old ones that we've taken out, and they are absolutely fine. Just remember, just marry the old pad up to the new pad and just make sure that they're the same size, same shape, and everything looks absolutely fine. Same with the disc. So without further ado, let's get straight into putting the new pads and the discs on and how to do it. So here is the new disc. Now this one, unlike the old one, does have a pre-drilled hole for a retaining screw or bolt to go in there. This is probably for a different vehicle because the hub doesn't have a hole for the screw or the bolt to go into. That's perfectly normal. It's just a variant for a different vehicle. In this case, you are literally just going to slide the new disc on, and if you've done a good job cleaning, that should just go straight on like that. Now, because we don't have anything to hold it on, what I normally like to do for the time being, just get one of the wheel nuts and just thread it on, and it may go all the way, which it does, and it just holds the disc in place just like that. So with the brake pad carrier, you just want to pop that back on there, feed the top bolt in, if I can locate it. There we go, in the top, and just screw it in by hand, and then one in the bottom as well. Now we need to tighten them. Okay, so when it comes to tightening the carrier bolts, there is a specific tightening torque. Now, according to the manufacturer specifications, these bolts are to be tightened to 70 Newton meters. So you will need a torque wrench for this, and it's already set at 70. And you literally then just want to tighten it until you get that click. There we are, that's 70 Newton meters. And then the top one. Is 70 Newton meters. There we go. Okay, so here are the new pads. You do have to be very careful, you do have to inspect them, purely because, as you can see, out of the 4 individual pads in a kit, we actually only have 2 that have what's called wear indicators. Let's try and keep you focused there. So on this particular one, it has a wear indicator so that when the friction material runs out, the disc, let's just get you focused there again, will hit the tang and start making a squealing noise to let you know that something is going on, or in this case, the brake pad is getting low. By rule of thumb, you want this tang to end up at the top of the carrier in this respect. And what you want to happen is, as the disc rotates forward, you want it ideally to catch that tang and almost pull it towards it, because that will allow the tang to make the most optimum squeal, just to let you know that something is going on. So in this respect, this is going to be piston side, and it's going to be orientated so the wear tang is at the top. So the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to grease up with some copper slip the ears, and we're going to put them into the pad carrier. Now, you don't want to go too mad, but you just want to cover any contact surfaces which may cause some premature rubbing. Now, if you remember or have seen the video with the Seat Leon rear brake pads, I do talk about the brand Delphi providing fabric shims that have been designed to reduce brake squeal. In this case, again, from experience with DriveTech, we do have them supplied, which is great, but in this respect, we just need to put a little bit of copper slip on the back of it, and that will just help even more to prevent squealing. But like I said, with Delphi brands, if they've got the shims, you do not need to put copper slip on there. So once you've got those contact surfaces coated, just go ahead and pop them in. There we go, and they should slide in there quite easily, and then we'll get the second one. And then once that's done, now the way these are going to go in, remember we have these sprung loaded tangs. You want to put it in front of that, so as the pad goes in, this sprung loaded tang is constantly pushing on there. So again, there'll be a little bit of resistance. But once it's in, that'll drop in nice. And as you can see, they are nice and free to move accordingly. And that's the pads in the carrier. Now, we've had this caliper moving about quite a bit. You want to make sure it's orientated correctly so it's not twisted. You just want to slide the caliper over, and then with the 2 caliper retaining bolts, which may have another 2 new ones in the kit, in this respect it doesn't, you just want to pop them back in the top, get them started by hand, and then just nip them up with the spanner. Again, with a 19mm holding the slider, just want to very gently nip it up. Nothing too tight at all, because if it breaks, you're going to have a bad day. There we go. Okay, and that is effectively all done. We've got the new disc on, we've got the pad carrier on, we've got the new pads in, and the caliper is back on. So what I'm going to do now, in fast forward, I'm going to get the other side together. Once that's done, we're then going to get the car down with the wheels back on and pump out the brakes. Okay, so here we are back inside the vehicle. Now, we've got to remember that the pistons are fully pushed back into the caliper. So what we want to do here now is, once everything's installed, we want to slightly push the brake pedal to start to push those caliper pistons out, so they start to just touch the pads and basically just press them up nice and snug against the disc. So in the vehicle, all you're literally going to do is just lightly press the brake pedal. It will start to go hard, and then you'll feel it start to push the piston out, and then once it's fully out, it will then go really stiff. So all we need to literally do now is go to the brake fluid reservoir just to double check where the level is on the brake fluid and make sure it's not below minimum, and if it is, we need to top it up onto maximum. I don't know if you can just see it. If you can't, you'll have to take my word for it. The level is just about there, just below the maximum mark. So for belts and braces, I'm just going to get some new .4 fluid and just top that up until the level is bang on maximum, which is right there. There we are. And then pop the cap back on there. And there we are. And that is literally it. You can close everything off, close down the bonnet, and away you go. Okay everyone, and there you have it. That is how to replace the front discs and pads on a Ford Fiesta. So on that note, I am Adam Green from Green Auto Services. If you've enjoyed what you've watched, learned a little something, or perhaps just want to see more down the line, by all means don't forget to hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and don't forget, more importantly, to subscribe to the channel so you do not miss anything in the near future. Again, I am Adam from Green Auto Services. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.